Mike, let's talk baseball. Let's talk All-Star game. It's not at the halfway point. It's further than that. But it's always I always know it's the halfway point of summertime.
That's right. Yeah.
I thought I voted because I was going to get some of the Orioles on. I didn't care as much about the Phillies. I didn't think that maybe were that deserving for the Phillies, but the Orioles, I wanted to get some guys on. And everybody I voted for, both National League and American League, got in. So I must have done pretty well.
Wow.
So I don't see the snubs as much. I will talk American League with you briefly before we jump in the National League. The Orioles got 4 guys on. 3 of them are starting. It is a compliment for how they ended their year last year, and it sort of says a lot about how they're playing this year. Up-and-comers like Machado at third base as a backup is playing very well. He's only 21 years old. It says a lot about baseball, and as far as the young guys and what they're able to do now.
Right.
And I think that's the future right now of the sport. These big contracts that the Pujols and Ryan Howard got. I don't want to go off in too much of a tangent, but
But the Orioles have good players that people want to see. I mean, it's not just that the Orioles organization has gotten better; their team has gotten better. I think last year was a little bit of a fluke, but I don't think they're getting better, and they. And obviously, Chris Davis is one of the I would say one of the top 5 guys that everybody in America wants to see, based on the way he's bashing.
Real quick, how they got their players. Davis was a mid-season trade 2 years ago when they traded a middle reliever to Texas because Texas wanted to solidify their bullpen, and Davis was one of the guys that came back.
Well, that's how it goes.
Machado was a number 1, was a top draft choice they brought up. Hardy was a free agent. That's one of the better power-hitting shortstops, a very good defensive guy. Doesn't hit great for average. And Adam Jones, the center fielder that's going to start in the All-Star game, came over in an Eric Bedard trade, but Bedard had an extra year in his contract.
Right.
Seattle gave him Chris Tillman, Jones, a ton of George Sherrill, a ton of good players in return. So it was interesting how they've built their team right now using all 3 methods, the draft, trades, and free agency to do so. I wasn't unhappy there. Do you have any snubs that you see?
I don't know that there's snubs. The Machado does not have nearly as good offensive numbers as a couple of the third basemen that did not make it. Evan Longoria is one of them. Josh Donaldson of the A's is another one. The American League team has 3 catchers, which I don't know if that's sort of a roster flexibility thing. But I mean, 2 of them, the guy from Houston, the guy from Kansas City, are probably just to get a guy from Houston and Kansas City in the game, but they're not very. But Carlos Santana of Cleveland has very good offensive numbers for a catcher, so he's a guy. I think Nelson Cruz. I don't know that we need to see Nelson Cruz. People want to see Nelson Cruz in the All-Star game. I mean, Justin Verlander has a 3.5 something ERA. So you think, is he an All-Star? Well, I think he is a star that people do want to see. So I think that is a constant. We want to get into this Yasiel Puig controversy. That's another. I think the thing that you have to constantly bear in mind is it's an All-Star game. Some of it is you have to respect just the fans' wishes and who they want to see.
Well, that's why maybe in some ways the NBA gets right, where they have that game for the sophomores and rookie players, where a Puig would be perfect. At least he'd be showcased somewhere and be highlighted for the weekend. He should be there some way.
And they also have this fan battling for an extra player, which he is probably going to win, and he's probably going to get in the game. So I think that's fine. Jonathan Papelbon of the Phillies came out and was very critical of the idea of him being in the All-Star game. And if you want to make the argument that it's such a small sample size for him at the major league level that you don't know really how good he is, well, that's true. If you're going to make this argument that, well, you got to wait your turn, man, you're going to be a veteran, shut up. That's ridiculous. Right. But sample size argument is a real argument. But again, I think that argument is trumped by the fact that this guy's done some amazing, Roberto Clemente things, and people want to see him. I mean,
and put the Dodgers right back in contention, making him relevant again, and I think that's important in LA as well.
So I mean, the All-Star game is what it is. It's a little something to argue about for a week or so every summer, and then we kind of get back to the regular grind of the baseball season and start NFL training camps and back to the regular stuff.
Baseball's relevant for a little bit here, yeah. Philly, I mentioned the 2 Phillies. Dominic Brown makes it, which says a lot about his career because he struggled for a while. Injuries were part of it, but finally he's getting to play every day. He's finally got a hitting coach that he seems to really connect with, and Wally Joyner, the assistant hitting coach. but he's putting up some really nice numbers. Second in the league in home runs right now with 23.
Although weirdly not in the home run
He
derby.
got snubbed from there. Michael Kadire, better at home run hitting.
We could argue that's a snub, yeah.
And Cliff Lee's interesting. He has had a great year. Think about his year last year, Mike. He couldn't buy a win because the team gave him no offense, but his ERA and WHIP were really good. I think anymore you have to look at those numbers.
I think late June, very close to this time of year, he did not have a win last year. I think he was 0-5, maybe 0-6, for sure 0-5 at one point. So, and really hadn't pitched that bad, as you're alluding to. And again, he's made himself in the front of the trade discussion for the next couple of weeks.